Holy shit. This fucking chapter, guys, was insane. Like, I heard yesterday that people had been looking at the spoilers, looking at the Raw chapter and said this chapter is going to be absolutely crazy. And you know, after the last time when Yonko Productions were saying that we had a chapter of the year situation, I just didn't know if I wanted to trust this, but now that I've read this chapter, I can definitely say to you that this chapter was fucking crazy. So obviously at the beginning we have this whole license exam wrapping up. I mean, I did think the license exam was going to be taking a little bit longer. I thought we were gonna get some of the other students that were participating, not just Bakugo and the others, because, well, I felt like this was gonna be a small arc, but now it feels like the arc isn't really about the license exam itself. It feels like that was just a few standalone chapters, and now we're getting into the next arc really, which really surprised me, because you typically have, you know, arcs stapled up together, but in this case it didn't really feel like that. It felt like these license exam chapters weren't really part of any arc, or well, I guess you could still call it an arc, although be it like what, 4 or 5 chapters at best. And I mean, not much happened in regards of them wrapping up the whole exam and heading back home, apart from one thing which I will get into, and that was when we saw Endeavor and Todoroki. Obviously we know Todoroki, he doesn't like his father, he hates his old man, and that's a fact. I mean, that was made clear to us in the sports festival, and even though he has been interacting with his dad, you know, after that point, he still doesn't really like his dad. He just, I guess, accepts him for the fact that he's his dad and all of that, so he needs to kind of, you know, learn to live with it. And in this chapter we see how the two of them interact in a very interesting way, because Endeavor is seemingly the good guy in this case, not just the asshole that we've seen him been in the past, because in the past he's always been like, oh, my son Shoto, he's gonna defeat All Might, he's gonna surpass you and all of these kind of things. But now we see how Endeavor is kind of looking at Todoroki in a way that he wants him to grow in a much wider way, and he tells Todoroki that he's actually proud of him despite what Todoroki may think of him. And I think that's actually something really interesting to see from someone like Endeavor, and I kind of saw it coming in a way because we did see in the past chapters where Endeavor were actually talking to All Might about how he would be the new symbol of peace. And you know, obviously All Might tells him that he needs to be the symbol of peace in the way that he wants to be. He cannot copy the way that All Might is doing it. And so we might be getting some interesting development on that later on. Probably not right now, I feel, but maybe later on. Then we have the funeral of Night Eye. Now this is something that I thought already happened off screen, but apparently not, because we see, I mean, it's not really that in depth. We just see a few panels of it, and then we find out, you know, Centipeter is gonna be taking over the office that Night Eye was having. Obviously the other sidekicks are probably gonna be working for Centipeter instead, I think. I don't think it was actually stated, so I mean, his office is still gonna be running just under a different hero now. So I guess Centipeter is no longer a sidekick, but rather he's a pro hero now that works independently with his own sidekicks, which just goes to show you that, you know, eventually when you're a sidekick, you will actually become your own pro hero with your own agency, albeit in this situation it's not really his agency, he's just taking over something that Night Eye started. Alright, now we need to talk about the fucking bomb of this chapter, and that is Aoyama Yuga, you know, French boy, pretty boy of 1A, because we had a huge revelation about this character today. Apparently, Aoyama Yuga is planning something. He's gonna make a move, and obviously, what does this make us think of? Yes, Aoyama Yuga is almost certainly the traitor. I mean, if it's not, it's gonna be like the craziest curveball by Horikoshi, and I don't really think he's gonna curveball us in this situation. I think it is very much gonna be the case that Yuga Aoyama is in fact the traitor of UA Academy, and this is something that almost no one could have predicted, because there was only one piece of foreshadowing in the entirety of the series that would really suggest that he had something up his sleeve, and that was during the USJ arc, when he actually told, I don't remember exactly who he was talking to, but he was asking, you know, didn't you wonder where I was during this whole thing? And then he tells everybody it's a secret. And that, you know, when you first read or watch that, you think, oh, it's not gonna be a big deal, right? Because he's just a pretty boy, he's just a weird, funny guy, you know, he's not to be taken seriously under any circumstances, and that's kind of the whole thing with his character, I think, now that this is obviously an act. He's acting like that because then he can get away with certain things even though he's telling them the the truth or hinting towards something darker openly. Something that my friend Shogun told me, well, we were discussing it rather, he was talking about how Yuga may be pulling an Aizen from Bleach. Now, I haven't personally seen Bleach, but he did say that he's just dramatically going to change in terms of visual appearance, like his character design is going to completely change and he will be looking a lot more evil from this point or whenever he is officially revealed to be the traitor within the story, because right now it's more for us readers that he is probably the traitor. Obviously Deku seems to be kind of narrating this whole situation from the future, so it's probably going to be taking place starting next chapter. This arc could actually be some kind of interesting arc where it actually builds up to him being revealed as the traitor and not actually in the next chapter. It's probably just going to be starting the next chapter, and then after that, you know, it's gonna build up slowly within an arc, and at the end of that arc he's going to be, I guess, officially the traitor, so to speak. This is something that I am very curious about though, like why is he the traitor? Because I just don't see, I mean obviously because there's so little to go on, we don't know exactly why would someone like Aoyama be the traitor. Like what happened that made him want to support the villains over the heroes? And did he support the villains before he joined UA, or did it happen after? Because what if he was actually persuaded after he joined UA, because he did still take the entrance exam, and if that was planned, I just feel like it's strange, because what if he hadn't passed and he wouldn't gotten into UA Academy in the first place, so he wouldn't really be able to relay any sort of information to Shigaraki, as I assume he's working for Shigaraki if he's the traitor. Now it could be the situation that he's having a gun to his head, so to speak, that, you know, the villains are holding his family hostage, and if he doesn't do what they tell him to do, something bad is going to happen. I personally don't think that's the case, but it is possible nonetheless, because I mean these are villains we're talking about. They're probably gonna do anything to get their way, and Shigaraki is a sneaky motherfucker, so he will probably pull some sneaky tricks, you know, to reach his end goal. The last thing that I really want to touch on when it comes to Aoyama is really his quirk, because if he's the villain, I just feel like his quirk isn't enough, if you know what I mean. Like his quirk seems very limited in what it can do, so I think either it is the case that he is actually keeping information from everybody else, like his drawback might not actually be as bad as he tells everybody that it is, or it could be that his quirk has a lot more power than he's showing, or the third possibility, that isn't even his quirk to begin with. Because remember, he's having this belt, right, where it broke at one point that he was complaining that he couldn't use his quirk properly. So what if that belt is actually what allows him this power, and it just gives some sort of recoil into the stomach and it gives him a stomach ache? I mean, that's just wild speculation, of course, but I just feel like if he's gonna be like this really badass villain traitor, I mean, if he is in fact evil at nature, he's gonna have to be pretty strong, maybe not stronger than everybody in 1A because he's still the same age as everybody else, but he's gonna have to be of some threat, I think. And right now, from what we've seen in the past, of course, of his actions, he's not really the biggest threat. So I'm just curious, you know, what Horikoshi is going to be doing in terms of his character. Like, is he simply going to be in UA to collect information, or is he actually, you know, really powerful in terms of his character that we don't know about? Anyway, I think I'll end this video here, so let me know what you think down below in the comments. Do you think Yuga Aoyama is in fact a traitor, or is Horikoshi just doing some A-level game with his curveballing right now? Let me know down below, and as always, if you did, be sure to Detroit smash that like button if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new to my channel. This has been your favorite host, Perm, and I will see you next time.